Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Wedding Ceremony Podcast. We talk about anything and everything that has to do with wedding ceremonies. My name is Clint Hufton. With me is a gentleman that always brings the heat, JP Reynolds.
Clint, on this rainy Southern California day, it's good to be with you.
You
To
know,
see that sunny smile.
I'm glad you brought up the weather because I have a little thermometer here. It says 63 degrees and we are freezing. And I keep thinking of the people in like Minnesota.
Yeah.
I will say we're pretty soft here in Southern California when it comes to the weather. Oh, you should all know, if you're joining us for the first time, that JP and I are both wedding officiants. We've been doing it for over 30 years each.
I've only been doing mine for 5 years, Clint.
Really?
You're
Five
you're old,
years?
you're older than I am, Clint.
JP, you were born in a leap year. That's the only way we can figure that out. Anyway, we both have been doing it for a long time. We come from very different backgrounds, and we are still officiating weddings on a regular basis. And that is the substance of this podcast. JP is an accomplished author. He has books about wedding ceremonies and getting a wedding ceremony created. They are in the Amazon store and in the Kindle store in Amazon. He is a communications expert. Thebusinessofconfidence.com is that website. His wedding website is jprweddings.com. Mine is just my name. It's Clint Huff, CLINTHUFFT.com for all of the things that I do. So JP, I worked a few weeks ago with an event planner that you and I both adore, Jeannie Savage,
Who has been on the podcast.
She's just amazing. I always say that the best people, the best event planners are the ones who get stuff done, but they do it with a smile. You know, there's no sense of urgency or tension or whatever. Very, very rarely do you see any of that with the best of the best. And obviously that includes Jeannie. What comes with the Jeannie Savage package is the fact that there's a bunch of stuff that happens before I show up. She's so efficient. The witness has already signed a license, obviously runs the rehearsal. And even though I work with the couple to create the ceremony, there still is things that surprise me when I show up. For example, I look to my right before the ceremony starts. I mean, like, I always get there about an hour early and I'm just checking everything. And I see these two huge, big, beautiful black dogs. It's like a black St. Bernard. I mean, they're big, JP. They come up to probably close to our waist. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I see them and I see that they're wearing little tuxedos. And I think to myself, nobody told me about those. I bet they're in the wedding. When I'm standing next to Jeannie, I said, I saw two dogs. Are they in the wedding? Yes. What's going to happen to them once they walk up the aisle? Oh, their dog walker will take them away. Okay, great. I saw some kids, a bunch of little kids dressed really, really pretty. The lost children of weddings, as you would say. Nobody told me about them. What's going to happen with those people, those little people? Are they going to be up there? They're going to stand with the wedding party? What are they? And all of this stuff is kind of like on the fly for me, which I'll be honest with you, I like that. I like stuff that kind of comes out of left field, and then you have to figure out how to deal with it and still do your job. And I really like that kind of stuff.
It's interesting. Over time, I have found that I have added questions to my initial conversation with a couple. I now ask, are there any animals? That's something I want to make sure. Then I ask, are there any, quote, little people in the ceremony? Ring, flower. If so, how many? It just illustrates again, nothing can be taken for granted. And it is like a space shuttle with seconds to go before launch. You have to review everything because as prepared as you are, there is inevitably one last minute change.
Nobody tells you. That's the thing. Everybody else may never know. Oh, yeah, we've been talking about this for weeks, and we have no idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you and I pride ourselves on the quality of the communication that goes back and forth between our own self and a couple. Something always slips by. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And that is why, as an officiant, I would maintain that it is essential to be on site an hour before ceremony start time.
I agree 100%. By the way, you are the only person on the face of planet Earth that would equate a wedding ceremony to the launching of a space shuttle. I would never have thought of that on my own. So thank you for introducing that.
It is like, hello, Command Central. I look at Jeannie, I look at the event planners I work with. It's like, you are the head of NASA today. We are going into space. And
if you work with somebody as good as Jeannie, then absolutely. Yep. But you and I have both worked with people that don't look at the world the same way that somebody of her caliber does. And we have to pick up the pieces and fill in the gaps I don't make a big thing out of it, but I am looking at that in terms of the whole emotional experience of everybody and what could possibly go wrong. Now, there is another thing that happened at
Right.
this wedding that I thought was interesting. The bride, in the communication back and forth before the wedding day, really wanted something specific in regards to logistics. She had a wedding party that had about 6 people on each side. And what she had in mind, when the wedding party would come up and stand near me, the couple would come up and get to me. And then she wanted me to say something to the guests, like an introduction, and then ask the wedding party to then go to their chairs and be seated.
Uh-huh.
Jeannie, the event planner, didn't get that memo. So what happens is I send her the ceremony and it says in there, and then the wedding party will be seated. But at the rehearsal, she just said, you'll come up there. And then when Reverend Clint tells everybody to be seated, then you guys will go and take your seats. And so I show up and I said, how did the rehearsal go? And tell me what happened. And she said, well, they're going to sit down when you tell everybody else to sit down. I said, that's fascinating because the bride specifically said, and I showed her in the ceremony that I had sent her, that look, this is what she told me that she wanted. But, and here's a key point. If this is how you rehearsed it, if everybody expects that when I tell the guest to be seated, then the wedding party is going to be seated, then that's what I'm going to do. I don't want to show up bigfooting everybody and saying, no, 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 I'm in charge now and we're going to do it my way when Jeannie has already rehearsed it that way. Because I don't know if you found this or not, but people in wedding ceremonies, anybody who's involved, if it's different than the rehearsal, they get really scared. They get uptight.
Right.
Because I do add a couple of little nuances that they wouldn't do at the rehearsal because they just don't know. Just little things that'll make things a little smoother. And there have been a couple of times where a dad or a bride or whatever said, that's not what we rehearsed. We can't do that. That's not what we rehearsed. So-and-so will get really, really freaked out. I just thought, oh, okay, fine. If that's what they rehearse and everybody sits down all at the same time, that's fine. I don't care.
Clint, that really is essential because, number one, it doesn't matter. I am guided by what makes life simple for everybody involved. People who need people, the couple, the wedding party, the guests, they are attending something that they have no idea what it's about. They may have been to a wedding, they may have been married, but there's no real existential experience of how this is put together and how it flows. That is essential. Your instincts, for me, are spot on. All I need is to hear them say their vows. And however we get there, and whatever happens, if the dogs want to do a juggling act and they forgot to tell me, it's like, fine, but I can't sign that license until I hear those vows. You asked me before we started, did I have anything to say? And I said, no, which is always a lie. Because this really speaks to the heart of how a ceremony functions. Within the last month, I officiated a wedding for a couple whose parents attended the wedding from China. All of the guests were Asian,
Sure.
the majority being Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect that a good portion of the guests came from China or other places outside the United States. I don't write a script word for word before the ceremony. Mm-hmm. I just my own style. So I'm not reading from a book. That goes back into my own style of teaching. But this couple asked that I submit a written script to the event planner a month beforehand so that it could be translated. So that people would have a copy of the script that they could follow in Mandarin.
How did you feel about that?
Oh, I've done that before.
Oh, okay.
So it was not the first time it's been requested.
Yep.
What I found fascinating, as time went on, I noticed that fewer and fewer people were following the script, Chinese script that was in front of them. And I don't know what anybody's level of English understanding was in the group. It was a small gathering, about 60 people. But it reminded me a ceremony is not a lecture. It's not a classroom experience. It's its own beast. And it's this intimate moment where people generate this energy that we call love and surround these two nervous wrecks with that energy. And for 20 minutes, we are humming with energy. And as an officiant, it is our responsibility to generate the energy, maintain the energy. And so much of that is done non-verbally. The look on our face, how we look at the couple, the tone of our voice. And then the week after, or 2 weeks after, I had a wedding where everybody was from the good US of A, and language was not an issue. And again, though, I'm convinced people respond to the energy. And they know people are not stupid. People know if an officiant is invested in the moment.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
People know. People know. It's like they don't need me to be a high school chum of the groom or the bride. They know if I'm truly present, and that's what they respond to.
You know, someone said that ceremony. I think we've said this many times on the podcast. A ceremony is like theater, and if you
Yes.
think to what is bad acting when you watch a television show or a movie or whatever, what is bad acting?
Mhm.
Well, it's a person that is performing and not living, not just being there. And I think that that also is a mark of a truly good officiant, is exactly what you're saying, where you're present and you're right there in the moment and you're not performing per se, although there is aspects of performing because you have to be
Right.
able to articulate and hit the back row with
Right.
your voice and stuff like that. But the honesty of being in the moment, I did work one time with a translator live. And so as I did my thing in English, this person
Yeah.
translated into, I think it was Chinese. And I really enjoyed that process because I was wondering, how much do I give her to translate? What's the right flow of that kind of a thing? My focus is the couple. I want the guests to feel included, but from a certain point, I also want them to understand how intimate this is for the couple. And so, you know, when you said that they don't really know what's about to happen, I've talked about my process where we build the ceremony together and every ceremony is
Mhm.
different and so on. I will tell everybody, thank you for coming. And the wedding that I did with Jeannie, I overheard her before the ceremony talking to somebody in the wedding party, whatever, in flawless Mandarin. What language is that? She said Mandarin. Okay, so that told me that the Asian people that were there, that was their native language. And especially the family, the parents of the bride. One little thing that I did at the very beginning when I said, thank you all for coming. And then I paused and said, ni hao. And I looked at, and her dad was like caught off guard and was like so happy just for
Mhm.
that one little thing to welcome them and let them feel like their heritage is being honored. But the other thing that I do is once I've said to everybody, welcome, thank you for coming, just so you know, with my process, every word you're about to hear was either chosen or written by these two people. And then I take the microphone, where typically I use a microphone on a stand. I'll take the microphone and I'll put it off to the side, and I will very quietly say to the bride and groom, they have no idea what's about to happen.
Mhm.
And the couple always reacts to that because they're caught up staring at each other and they're caught in the moment. But for me to kind of break into that, you know, panic type of deal
Right.
and just have a quiet moment with them and let them know that now you're in charge of this, you're on the winning team, and they're going to be able to appreciate something that you guys created all within a fraction of a second by saying they have no idea what's about to happen with a smile
Mhm.
on my face. And then I bring the mic over and we go into the ceremony. But that one little moment where it's just kind of acknowledging the intimacy and the uniqueness of what is about to happen and how they're in charge, the couple, I think it makes a big difference in their mood.
I have to believe that. Yes. Because all of this operates on a psychological plane.
Absolutely.
Right? It's all of those small moments that impact how it plays out. And, one other thing that I thought was interesting, the second of these two weddings I just referenced, when I was leaving the venue, happened to have been passing these two guys who had already gotten their drink from the bar. God love them. One of them said to the other, without seeing me walk by, so this was not said because I was walking by, but one said to the other, I overheard, that was really nice. It was short and sweet. And the other said, yeah, I love that it was short and sweet. So for two guys, I will stereotype, for two guys to say, oh, that was nice. Because I love that what they appreciated is probably more the short than the sweet. But be that as it may, and this is opening up a question that we can look at in another episode because I think it leads us into many different directions. But it reminded me that over the years, my own style of crafting a ceremony has evolved. In the old days, there was a lot of talk, and you and I, in some respects, bonded over some of these early issues of, oh, what about the sand ceremony?
Right.
Oh, how do you do the unity candle? Oh,
Right.
how do you do the wine boxing? And there was a lot of unity rituals. And it was, oh my God, we can't get married unless we have a unity ritual. And over time, I'll mention it now in passing to a couple as an option. And they'll say, no, we're good. And I find that over time, a lot of the trimmings, I'll call it the trimmings of a ceremony, have fallen away. And that people really in the ceremony are focused on something that is short, sweet, meaningful. And they don't have to bring in sand, truckloads of sand or a case of wine.
I want to officiate the ceremony that brings in truckloads of sand. Beep, beep, beep as they back up. That would be awesome. Oh my gosh.
But
Especially if they're different colors.
of course, they have to be different colors. Of course, my
And then
God,
what I
they have to
imagine
be.
is that they back up and they dump all this sand between the guests and the bride and groom so that nobody can see anything anymore. But there's the unity sand. Oh, I love
That's
that.
that's the commercial. That's the commercial for the special. There it is.
So good.
I'd be curious to get your take. And again, it opens up, I think, a longer kind of conversation. That throwaway comment made me think I've been doing this long enough now to see that there's an evolution in what people want, what people think they need.
I work every year in November at this big convention in Las Vegas, and it's called the Wedding MBA, and it's all business. It's all about business. Wedding professionals from all over the place come. They have over 5,000 attendees, and it's all business. And one of the most attended sessions in the convention is, what are the trends? What's new? What's coming around the corner? What are people doing now? So for instance, what just happened is Taylor Swift just got engaged, right? And what hit the media, both social and regular media, is, oh my gosh, what is she going to wear? And all of the wedding professionals want to know what she's going to wear because they think that that's going to launch a whole bunch of copycats. And that's going to be the trend for the next whatever length of time. But how many people look at pictures of themselves from 30, 40 years ago and say, why in the world was I wearing that? The same thing with wedding ceremonies, like, okay, we did a sand thing, or we did a candle thing, or we did whatever we did. Why did we do that? Well, that's what everybody was doing then. And then eventually it kind of wears out. And part of being hip is to not follow the trend and then figure out your own thing. I do have a couple that's going to get married this coming weekend, and they're going to do something with a cord. They're either going to do the hand fasting or they're going to do the Trinity knot. Have you ever seen that, where it's like 3 cords and you weave it to honor their heritage? But I don't get it that often. There's always something. This is what we're going to do.
Some of these traditions are intimately related to a culture.
Right.
And that's different because that's embedded in cultural tradition and identity and family and the passing down of whatever.
Yeah, but honoring your heritage. Yeah.
Right. But sand, I lived for 3 years in the South Pacific on an island in the middle of nowhere. Nobody had the sandwich, the sand ritual on this island. Okay. And then we had sand all over the place. Okay. Yeah, no, this whole thing of let's take sand and pour it together. It's like, yeah, no, there's nothing that's not Irish, that's not Italian, that's not Nigerian, that's nothing. All right. Or, the wine box that gets a little closer to the Irish
because of what's inside.
Yes, exactly. I actually had a couple where the groom was Irish and he said, could we substitute whiskey? And I said, sure, whatever you want to open up in a year's time, that's fine. I don't care. We can put whatever you want in the bottle. But that is not intimately connected with any cultural or religious tradition. The stuff that I think is falling away is what I think happened was we're no longer going to get married in the church. All right. That's our parents' religion. That's our parents' tradition.
Right.
Okay. Oh my God. Now what are we going to do? Oh, we have to come up with something. We've now rejected all of those silly traditions from the religion. We have to invent our own silly traditions in order to have a half-hour wedding ceremony. That stuff, I think, is what is losing cachet. The cultural traditions remain iconic because they're associated with a particular group of people.
Right. And I like that if it's included, there's an emotional connection between the couple and the ritual, which I think, we always get back to the same thing, which is the emotional experience of the couple and hopefully everybody that loves them. Yeah.
Because then you have their photo that's going to be placed next to the parents' photo, which is being placed next to the grandparents' photo, all doing that same ritual.
Oh, see, that's really cool. That's really cool. If it really does have that thread through the generations, I think that's awesome.
Right. Yeah. It's not, nobody has grandparents who poured sand into a vase together.
That's right. That's so good. And we couldn't get the trucks. They were all booked. Oh my gosh, that's so
Exactly.
good.
All right. Maybe that's where we'll end.
That's it for today. JP, tell everybody how they get in touch with you.
You can email me at jp@jprweddings.com. And that's a good way to do it.
That's the best way to do it. And that's because your website is jprweddings.com plus thebusinessofconfidence.com for your communications coaching. And remember that JP's books are in the Amazon store and in the Kindle store in Amazon. The best way to get a hold of me is just go to my website. It's my name, ClintHuft, clinthuft.com. That's it for this episode of the Wedding Ceremony Podcast. This is Clint, and on behalf of JP, we will see you next time.